Hi, it's Friendship Bets. Welcome back to another video. Today we got Heroes and Zeros, Waiver Wire, and the Thursday night matchup with some Fanduel Draftkings lineups. Please like and subscribe. It helped me out greatly. I had to re-record this part for the third time because it got deleted. Had some technical difficulties, so trying to get this video up to you guys as soon as possible. So let's jump into the heroes. Starting at the quarterback position, got Tua. He just went crazy at 466 and 3. He looked fantastic, throwing deep balls to Tyreek all over the place. Jalen Waddle making big plays. He looked great. Jordan Love looked really well in his first start as the Packers guy. Threw for 245 and 3. Really good start to the year for Jordan Love. I'm buying in. I think Jordan Love's going to be a good player. And Mac Jones finally have a real offensive coordinator for the first time in his life, not a special teams and defensive specialist, and had the most pass attempts of his career. Threw for 316 and 3, had a pick, but Mac Jones looked good. Nothing else to say about it. Going against the Eagles team, one of the best defenses in the league last year, and he put up 303. So Mac Jones, sneaky guy to look out for. I know nobody likes him, but it's my guy. He looked good. Kirk Cousins was solid, 344 and 2. Anthony Richardson, rookie, he looked good throwing the ball. We knew that he was going to run. He had 10 rush attempts for 40 yards and a touchdown, but he threw for 223 and a touchdown. So it's a good first game for a rookie, and could see some fantasy gold in Anthony Richardson's future. Not really anyone else was too great. Herbert, Deshaun Watson, they were okay. Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, but Tua, Jordan Love, Mac Jones, and Kirk Cousins were really the guys that I was impressed with. It all depends on your league scoring too. There's bonuses for big plays. Guys like Tua and Kirk Cousins, with the receivers they have, they're more likely to get those bonuses for long plays or bonus yardage bonuses. But Tua, Mac, Jordan Love, they were all solid. Those were the top 3 quarterbacks. Who would have thought that would be the top 3 quarterback? If you want to go down to top 5, Tua, Mac Jones, Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson, and I guess more standard scoring, probably Deshaun Watson. Those are top 5 quarterbacks of week 1. And I don't think many people saw that coming. But going over to the running backs, CMC was just great. He was getting all the work, and he's Christian McCaffrey. 22 rush attempts, 152 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 17 yards. Man, he's the guy. What more do you want? Alright, had some technical difficulties. I just recorded the entire video and only the first 3 minutes recorded. So we're gonna speed through these a little bit quicker just to get the video up today for Waiver. So talked about CMC. He's great. Nothing else to be said. He got all the work. Didn't see any Elijah Mitchell. Austin Eckler, fantastic game. 16 attempts, 117 yards, 4 catches for 47 yards. It was weird that he wasn't on the field as much. He almost split time 50-50. But if you didn't watch the game, he was dealing with an injury. They didn't make any comments about it, but you could see him limping off the field at one point. Came out now that he was dealing with an ankle injury, so I don't expect that split to be 50-50 for the rest of the year. Aaron Jones looked good. He didn't get a ton of work, only 9 attempts, 41 yards. Had 2 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown, though, and got hurt on one of his touchdowns that he scored. But he looked like the far superior back to A.J. Dillon. And Tyler Algier, number 4 running back on the week. I knew he was going to get some work. Bijan wasn't going to get all of it. I was not expecting 15 rush attempts and 3 catches to go with 2 touchdowns. So it's something we got to keep an eye on. Falcons want to run the ball and never throw it. And when they did throw it this week, it was to the running backs. They had 18 pass attempts, and 9 of them were to Algier or Bijan. So Algier's worth flex consideration, but nothing more than that. I think his workload will start to decline. It's probably going to be his best game of the year. Tony Pollard looked good. 14 attempts, 70 yards, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns. Hard to really gauge the Cowboys' offense because their defense was so dominating and they were up so big. It's hard to take too much away, but Tony Pollard looked good. He was in on all the goal line carries. No other running back even saw the field inside the 5, let alone got a touch. So that's encouraging to see him in on goal line and all the short yardage, and he was the guy like I was projecting him to be. He's going to be a great running back all year. Travis Etienne, he looked good. Had 18 rush attempts for 77 yards and a touchdown, 5 catches. Was a little concerned about Tank Bigsby cutting into his workload, but he didn't at all in this game. I mean, 18 rush attempts and 5 targets, and caught all 5 of them. That's a great sign for ETN going forward. And Bijan, mentioned him, had 10 rush attempts. I'm projecting that'll start to go up. I think next week it'll probably be about a 50-50 in rush attempts between Bijan and Algier. Guessing they'll both get like 12 to 15. But Bijan did have 6 targets, 6 catches, and a touchdown. So, encouraging sign. Good first game for the rookie. Breece Hall, he got utilized more than I was expecting. I didn't think he'd had more than about 8 carries. And he had 10 carries for 127. And that's a good sign. We saw his explosiveness. You could tell that he wasn't 100% healthy, though. If he's him normal self, he's not getting caught on that long run. I mean, he had 5 to 7 yards past the defender and got caught from behind. A guy with his speed's not getting caught in that situation if he's 100%. Nick Chubb was solid. He had 4 targets, caught them all, so that's an encouraging sign. He's usually hasn't been a running back that's got a ton of targets in the past, so that's a good sign. Roschon Johnson, I'm not projecting that this is anything. If you look at snap counts and touches in the first half when this was a close game, Roschon Johnson was hardly on the field, didn't get any targets, no carries, nothing in the first half when the game was within reach. Everything came in the second half for him. So I'm not projecting that this is a script going forward. I mean, he had 7 targets, 6 catches, 5 rush attempts for 20 yards and a touchdown, all in the second half. I don't see that as anything. One that is something, Kyren Williams is the starting running back for the Rams. Cam Akers, he out-touched, outperformed, everything to Cam Akers. Had 15 rush attempts, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Kyren Williams is the starter, not Cam Akers. He'll be in the waiver wire segment. So let's go over to the receivers. Tyreek Hill, what can you say? 15 targets. Caught 11 of them for 215 and 2. Guy is amazing. Can't be stopped. He was open on every play. Tua stays healthy. Tyreek's going to have an amazing year. I think he's got a shot to do what he said and break the 2,000 yard mark. He's just that good. He's always open. Brandon Ayuk looked great. Was in the doghouse last year, and he's moving up to the penthouse. 8 targets, 8 catches, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was Brock Purdy's go-to guy in the red zone. And Debo's an elite athlete, but Ayuk's just got that red zone ability, and I think Ayuk is going to be a solid receiver going forward. Justin Jefferson, it's amazing. 12 targets, caught 9 of them for 150. What more do you want? Pretty standard stat line for Jefferson. Jacoby Myers now, before he went down with the concussion, he had 10 targets, caught 9 of them, and had 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is something. Him, almost every pass was either going to Devontae Adams or Jacoby Myers. Their stat lines look pretty similar. Their targets were similar, and Jacoby Myers wasn't really supposed to be that guy. That's Devontae's job, but we got a new quarterback over there. You know, Jimmy G might just like Jacoby Myers, and he looked solid. He was getting targeted all over the field in the red zone. So Jacoby Myers, we'll have to see what's going on with this concussion, but he looked good. Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 102 and a touchdown. Pretty typical stat line for a player his caliber. Calvin Ridley looked good. I was down on Calvin Ridley coming into the year, but he looked good. Looked fast, explosive. Had 11 targets, caught 8 of them for 101 and a touchdown. Just pretty good game. You can't ask for too much more. And Kendrick Bourne was far and away the Patriots' go-to guy. This revamped offense, Mac Jones throwing the ball a ton, had his career high in pass attempts. So Kendrick Bourne had 11 targets, only caught 6 of them, but had 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mac was going to him all over the field and in the red zone. So if we can get his catch rate up a little bit, you know, if we get 11 targets, we can get 8, 9 catches, and we're looking at a 100-yard game from him there. So Kendrick Bourne's definitely someone to look at. And Puka Nakua, I could be saying the name wrong. I don't remember how to say it, but something along those lines. If you don't know who that is, Rams rookie receiver. Or Cooper Kupp Jr., if you want to call him that. He looked like him on the field, similar body types, and was always open. It looked just like Cooper Kupp in a Rams jersey. He's the guy. I thought all Kupp's, 15 targets a game would be distributed. Everyone would get a piece of the pie. Everyone bump up 2 or 3 targets. But nope, all of them went to Puka. 15 targets, 10 receptions, 119 yards in his first career game in the NFL. He's pretty good. The rookies don't just get 15 targets in their first game. So Puka's, depending on your team construction, Puka's got to be number 1 waiver claim. We'll talk about it later, though. Michael Pittman, 97 yards and a touchdown. Olave, 112 yards at 10 targets. That's encouraging. Tutu, big play guy. Only 6 catches, but 120 yards, so that's something. Rashid Shaheed, Amon-Ra, Mike Evans, Romeo Doubs looked good. He had 2 touchdowns, only 5 targets, but had 2 touchdowns, so they were looking for him. Zay Flowers, another one. You love to see. He was the Ravens' number 1 guy. The Ravens' offense looked putrid, but I shouldn't say putrid. That's a bit extreme, but it didn't look great. And Zay Flowers was the number one guy. Wasn't Bateman, wasn't OBJ. He had 10 targets and caught 9 of them for 78 yards. That's very encouraging to see from a rookie in his first game. So Zay Flowers is the Baltimore Ravens' number 1 receiver. End of story. He's going to be the rest of the year. On to the dumpster fire. Tight ends. Number 1 tight end on the week, Hunter Henry. 5 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown. That's all it takes to be the number 1 tight end. 16.6 points in PPR scoring. If you don't have one of the top guys, I know Kelsey and Andrews didn't play, but still, you want to shoot for a top 5 tight end. I mean, that all you're aiming for is someone to score a touchdown. Hayden Hurst was number 2 tight end. 5 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. TJ Hawkinson was the number 3 tight end. 9 targets, which is encouraging, and he caught 8 of them. Only 35 yards. And he was the number 3 tight end on the week. Donald Parham, 3 targets. Caught them all for 21 yards and a touchdown. And he's a top 5 receiver on the week. I mean, it's just pathetic how bad tight ends were. Evan Ingram, 5 catches for 49 yards. And that's a top 5 tight end. Less than 10 fantasy points. So don't worry if you don't have, if your tight end wasn't great, because nobody's is, unless you got Kelsey, Andrews, very few guys. So we're shooting for a tight end to score a touchdown. That's all it is, really. Nobody's going to get a ton of catches with a bunch of yards and make your fantasy week worth it without scoring a touchdown at the tight end position. So, those were the heroes. On to the zeros. On to the zeros of the week. Bad performances. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about nobody players. These are guys that were most likely in your lineup or you drafted high. Start us off at quarterback. You got Jalen Hurts. Just was not good. The Patriots defense kept him in check. He was going down early on all his runs, not fighting for extra yards like he has before. And he just looked bad. Josh Allen looked even worse. He had 4 turnovers. He looked like it was his rookie year. He just was not good at all. I mean, he had 12 points in standard scoring. It was just awful. Justin Fields, another guy, he didn't look good. He only had 3 pass attempts that the ball traveled farther than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. That's not a recipe for success for fantasy quarterback. I know he runs the ball so much that, I mean, he had 15 points, but he's never going to goose you with less than 10 points, but where you drafted him, 15 points just isn't cutting it. And Geno Smith, my guy, just looked awful. I mean, I at least thought he was going to have another good season. They brought in more weapons for him, and he just didn't look good at all. Less than 10 fantasy points. Lamar Jackson looked even worse. And, all these quarterbacks, it was just a down week, and I'm not projecting this season to go the rest of the season to go this way. These guys are going to bounce back. But this week during the zeros, Daniel Jones, it looked awful. Dak Prescott, I can't really say that he looked awful. He didn't need to do anything. The defense was so dominant, and Tony Pollard had 2 touchdowns. So Dak didn't have any fantasy points. Joe Burrow, less than 5 fantasy points. Who would have ever thought that would be a thing without him getting hurt early? So Joe Burrow just didn't look good at all. I mean, let me see. Let me pull up his stats. I mean, he was 14 for 31 for 82 yards. I know there was bad weather in that game, but that's just flat out awful. So, on to running backs that let you down. Cam Akers wasn't awful, but it don't look like he's the starter. That's for sure. So that's a little bit scary. Let's see. Saquon didn't do anything really. Let's see, 12 rush attempts for 51 yards. That's 3 catches for 4 yards. That's not exactly ideal from a guy that went in the first round. So, let's see, who else we got? Josh Jacobs didn't look good. He was behind Saquon. 9.1 fantasy points, running back 32. Jahmyr Gibbs, 8 fantasy points, running back 36. Rachaad White, I think Rachaad White's going to lose his job. Tucker there. He's a rookie, undrafted guy, but Rachaad White was so awful. I mean, he had 17 attempts for 39 yards, 2.3 yards per carry. That is a recipe to lose your job, is what that is. Najee Harris was bad. Nobody else really that you would have been playing. But the Steelers as a whole just looked awful. But Najee only had 6 rush attempts for 31 yards and 2 catches for 2 yards. Not good. I do think the Steelers' offense will be better than that, but it is a little scary after how bad they looked last year, and then that's how the season is starting this year. So, definitely something we got to keep our eye on. So, onto the receiver zeros. Jamar Chase, obviously, with how bad they were, Burrow had 80 passing yards, so Jamar Chase isn't going to have anything if he doesn't. George Pickens, another Steelers guy, looked awful, 8.6 points. Yeah. Depending on Deontay Johnson injury, Pickens should see some more targets, but Mike Williams didn't look good. I mean, he did get hurt and was out for a little while. 4 catches for 45 yards, not great. Have to keep an eye on his injury too. Obviously, Deontay getting hurt didn't help him. Amari Cooper wasn't great either, only 6.7 points. Odell Beckham, if for some reason you played him, he was not worth it. Let's see, Tyler Lockett. That was not encouraging at all from Tyler Lockett. No, Geno was bad, but Lockett got hurt, but it was late in the game, and he only finished with 3 fantasy points. So that is not at all what you want to see. Then we got Drake London with a big ol' goose egg. The Falcons just refused to throw the ball. I mean, Drake London only had 1 target and 0 catches. And obviously that's not what you want to see. I don't know what's worse. Drake London only getting 1 target and not having a catch, or T. Higgins with his 8 targets in 0 receptions for 0 fantasy points. T. Higgins will bounce back. I wasn't high on him to start the year, but I mean, Joe Burrow's not going to throw for 80 yards every week. So that's all the guys I want to mention there. Tight ends, everybody besides, I'll say Hunter Henry and Hayden Hurst. I guess if you want to throw T.J. Hawkinson in there, but I mean 16.6 from Henry, 15.1 from Hurst, and everybody else sucked. Tyler Higbee, 7.9. Freiermuth, 7.3. Dalton Kincaid, 6.6. Kyle Pitts, 6.4. I mean, these are just putrid numbers, and it's just the state of the tight end position. The biggest of them all, Dallas Goedert, goose egg. I really don't understand how the Eagles were struggling so bad to move the ball, and Goddard wasn't even getting targeted. 1 target, no catches. I don't see that keeping up at all, especially with how bad they looked. So, it was a rough week, honestly. A lot of big-time names let down, big-time quarterbacks let down, and there's very few true elite guys this week. You know, I had Tyreek, Ayuk, a couple of receivers, but a lot of guys that weren't in lineups. Eckler and CMC obviously did great, but it was a weird week in the fantasy world. So that's what we got for zeros and heroes. Let's get on to the waiver wire. All right, on to the waiver wire segment. Well, if you had Aaron Rodgers, you're looking for a quarterback, or maybe you just took the late quarterback strategy, aren't buying into Geno. A couple guys I'm liking. Brock Purdy, the kid's good. He's puts up steady numbers every week, throws for 2 touchdowns every week. Pretty much you can just lock him in for 2 touchdowns. Got the Rams this week. So that Rams, Giants, Arizona. So he's got 3 pretty good matchups coming up. So he's rostered in just over half the league. So if he's available, Brock Purdy's not a bad one. Then my next favorite, my guy Mac Jones. He's turning it around. They threw the ball almost 60 times. He's never done that in his career. They were throwing the ball downfield. He's got a real offensive coordinator for the first time in his career. And in week 1 against one of the best defenses in the league from last year, he looked pretty good. Over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now he's got Miami coming up next. That game could be a shootout. I mean, I know the Patriots got a good defense, but I don't see many teams stopping Miami. So that game's got the chance to be a shootout. His next matchups after that aren't great with the Jets and Dallas, but for next week, I like Mac Jones a lot. Then we got Jordan Love would be my next favorite. He looked good. He stepped up. He's the Packers guy now, and he did not look bad at all. Got Atlanta, the Saints, and the Lions next 3 games. None of those matchups really scare me too much. So I'm good with Jordan Love. So those are the only 3 guys that I'm really that I would be okay with picking up. Obviously check your league. There might be, everyone always says not in my league, but there's always guys that you wouldn't expect to be on the waiver wire. So I'm just going over guys that are around the 50% or lower roster in leagues. So that was quarterbacks. Let's go to the running backs next. I was drafting and telling people personally to take Kenneth Gainwell after watching what the Eagles were doing, and Kenneth Gainwell, he's their starter. I mean, he was getting the majority of the touches. The Eagles didn't look good, but Gainwell played on 62% of the Eagles snaps. And for the Eagles, that's a lot. You know, they always work 3-4 running backs in. Then Jalen Hurts run the ball. So to play on 62% of the snaps, getting 14 carries and having 4 catches, that's pretty solid. So Kenneth Gainwell is, if he's available, he's my number 1 guy. Got Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and Washington coming up. None of those defenses really scare me too much. And he's probably rostered, but just take a peek and see. Raheem Mostert was clearly the Dolphins running back. Got 10 carries, but they threw the ball a ton. So, which the Dolphins are going to throw the ball a lot, but Mostert's a speed guy. He can help out in the screen game and get some catches. He had 2 catches. But Devon Achane was ruled a healthy scratch, which was a little odd to me. So I'm guessing Achane's going to find his way into the lineup. But Mostert didn't look bad. Running backs are kind of blah. Not anyone that I'm dying to get. Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. If I had to pick, Justice Hill would be my guy. He was more involved in the pass game. And when J.K. Dobbins went down, Justice Hill was the first running back in the game. So if I had to pick, it would be Justice Hill. So if you need a guy for the entire season, I'm going Kenneth Gainwell first, then Justice Hill would probably be my second. Kyron Williams, he was the Rams starter. Not what we were projecting, but you know, Cam Akers had 29 rushing yards on 22 carries. I'll say that again. 29 yards on 22 carries. Not even a yard and a half a carry. So Kyron Williams is the guy. He played just as much as Cam Akers did, but he outsnapped him and was on the field for 65% of snaps. So I think Kyron could be running back 2 in certain matchups. Most weeks probably a lower end flex play. And Zach Moss, I think it's pretty locked in that it's Zach Moss's job as the Colts running back. Unless something crazy happens and Jonathan Taylor comes back. But the guys they had out there weren't it. Deion Jackson fumbled twice. So it's going to be Zach Moss's job once he comes back. I think he'll be back this week or next week. So that would Zach Moss, I think, is a solid pickup if you got room to wait. Even if he is back this week, I don't know that I would necessarily play him. Just first game coming back off an injury. But it is Houston, so anything can happen against Houston, especially their run defense. So just a couple other guys I want to mention. If Tyler Allgeier's out there, like I said, I think this week was probably going to be his best game of the season, but he's not a bad guy to pick up. If something happens to Bijan, he looked good. He got a ton of carries last year. So he's a guy that you could play in your flex, and if something does happen to Bijan, you got a running back 2, maybe running back 1 upside. So Tajay Spears outsnapped Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry still got more opportunities, but just for him to play more than Derrick Henry was a very weird situation. I I think it's clear that he's Henry's backup if you have Henry, or even if you don't and you have a big bench and want to take him as a handcuff. I don't think he's got any value to play right now. But it's something to keep an eye on. If he's splitting 50-50 with Derrick Henry, he might work his way into a flex play. So definitely keep an eye on that one. Then Sean Tucker, for the Bucks, I mentioned it. I think Rachaad White's done, and they brought in Sean Tucker, an undrafted guy. He looked good in college, and went undrafted and made the 53-man roster, which usually doesn't even happen. But obviously Tampa likes him, and Rachaad White just looked flat out awful. There's nothing else to say about it. So Sean Tucker could be a sneaky one to pick up and wait a couple weeks and see what goes on with that backfield. So on to the receivers, where I think the value is. Puka Nacua is obviously number one. 15 targets is wild in your first game. So he's obviously number one. And it's tough because Jacoby Myers in concussion protocol, if I'm remembering right, he had concussion with the Patriots. So, but I love what the targets he was getting. That's not something to overlook. So, if you need someone for this week, I'm going Puka and Kendrick Bourne. Only 2% rostered. Kendrick Bourne looked good. Had 2 touchdowns. Talked about Mac Jones. I told you guys this Patriots offense was going to be better with a real offensive coordinator. And Bourne was the number one guy. So, I'm going Puka's number one and Bourne and Myers 3 right now. But Romeo Doubs looks solid. He's a little bit higher rostered, 45%. But check your league. He looked good. Nico Collins was their number one receiver. I'm not too excited about it, honestly. Really, there's 4 that I'm looking at. Really, obviously it depends on your roster. If you don't have an IR spot and you have J.K. Dobbins or someone that's hurt, drop them in and throw a shot at one of these guys. Tutu, Atwell, Nico Collins, Jaden Reed, Rashid Rice. You got to take a dart throw at one of them. There's no point in having someone that's hurt on your bench, especially if you don't have an IR spot. If you have an IR spot, that's different. But depending on what your team needs are, I would say my order for the waivers is probably Puka. Oh, sorry. Puka, then either Jacoby Myers or Kendrick Bourne. Honestly, I'm taking all the top 4 receivers I mentioned. Romeo Doubs, all 4 of those guys before any of these running backs. I know Kenneth Gainwell was Philly's guy, but never know what Philly's going to do. But running back wise, I'm going, if somehow Mostert's available, I think I'm still going to put Gainwell ahead of him. Then Mostert and Justice Hill, Kyron Williams, Zach Moss would be my order. But tight ends, they're a dumpster fire. But Hunter Henry was number 1 tight end on the week, and he's available in over 90% of leagues. So Hunter Henry's number 1. He was getting targets. Can't ask for too much more. Uh, Jake Ferguson. Dak Prescott always throws to the tight end, and like we saw the game. The Cowboys didn't have to throw the ball, so Jake Ferguson's not a bad pickup. Hayden Hurst got a ton of targets. I don't trust Bryce Young, but he got a good amount of targets, so it's not a bad pickup. Really, that's about it. Any deeper than that, and you're really hurting. I mean, if some of these guys are available, Tyler Higbee, Sam Laporta, they're owned in majority of leagues, but you never know, they might be available in yours. So take a look at those guys. All right, on to the Thursday matchup. Okay, Thursday night football, we got the Vikings at the Eagles. Eagles are 7-point favorites with the 48.5 over under. It's a good total, and we got some pieces to play in this game. We'll start off with the Vikings. I think you can play Kirk Cousins in this game. They're throwing the ball a ton, just like they did last year. He had 44 pass attempts, threw for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think Cousins, you can play him. And Madison, he's in there. He wasn't great. 11 carries, 34 yards, but he had 4 targets, 3 catches, only 10 yards. But he did have the touchdown, so I think Madison's in there. I don't know what to think. Honestly, the Eagles' defense was so good last year, and the Patriots' offense was so bad. But the Patriots didn't look bad against them. They didn't put up a ton of points, but they moved the ball on them. They gave up a lot of yards. So we're playing at Madison, obviously. Justin Jefferson goes without saying, he's in. Hockenson, where you drafted him, you got to play him. I didn't love Hockenson coming into the year, but he did have 9 targets. So I don't think there's going to be many times he has 8 catches for only 35 yards. So Hawkinson's in. Jordan Addison, I think he's solid to put in there. Looking at snap counts, he only played on 56% of snaps, and KJ Osborne played on 91%. But you look at that, and then they both had 6 targets. Addison had 4 catches to Osborne's 3, and Addison had 61 yards to Osborne's 31, and Addison had a touchdown. So I think Jordan Addison's a go, and KJ Osborne's not. Vikings are pretty cut and dry. Madison's in, Jefferson's in, Addison's in, Hawkinson's in, and I think you can play Kirk Cousins. Over on the Eagles side, obviously Jalen Hurts is in. It wasn't pretty. Only 170 yards, 1 touchdown, and 37 yards rushing. But where you took him, you don't have another option. I mean, he's in, and the Vikings defense isn't good. So obviously Jalen Hurts is in. Scrolling down, find their snap percentages. But talk about the receivers. Obviously, AJ Brown is in. Devonta Smith is in. AJ Brown had 7 catches for 79 yards. Not the worst, not great. Addison, pretty similar. They both had 7 catches on 10 targets. So I think it's how it's going to be all year. AJ Brown had 79 yards to Devonta Smith's 47, but Devonta had a touchdown. So I think we could see that same stat line pretty much all year. Similar in targets. AJ Brown with more of the big play guy with more yards, but Devonta Smith's safe. Then Kenneth Gainwell, we're putting him in. I mean, he played 62% of the snaps. Swift played 29, and Boston Scott played 12. But at opportunities, Gainwell had 14 carries and 4 targets. Boston Scott and DeAndre Swift each only had 1 carry, and Boston Scott had 1 target. So between Swift and Scott, they only had 3 opportunities, and Gainwell had 18 opportunities. So Eagles are pretty cut and dry too. Yeah, Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Kenneth Gainwell, and we're playing Dallas Goedert. You got to go back to him. I know it's hard. It's hard when a guy goose eggs you, but you got to go back to Dallas Goedert in this situation. Barring injury, he's not going to have another 0 catch game. I mean, he played on 92% of the snaps. It just happens sometimes. There's no other way around it. He just wasn't getting the ball, so I'm going back to him. If I have him, I'm going to him. I'm not picking up one of these scrubs that are gonna get me 3 catches for 40 yards. I'm just not doing it. So I'm trusting what Goddard's done in his career, not just one game. So playing Hurts, playing Gainwell, playing AJ Brown, playing Devontae Smith, and playing Dallas Goedert. Pretty cut and dry Thursday night. So let's build a couple lineups out for Draftkings and Fanduel now. All right, we're going to start off on Draftkings. Reminder, these are for cash games, so 50-50s and double-ups. On Draftkings, the captain spot, the price is 1.5 times. So there's a lot of good pieces in this matchup here. It's hard to get. There's so many pieces that you want in this game. It's hard to put any of the top guys in your captain spot and still build out a solid lineup. So I think I'm gonna try out, see what we get putting Jordan Addison in the captain. Obviously you gotta get Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts in there. I'm gonna put Madison in there right now. Got 4,500 left per position. There's not any real cheap guys on these teams. Are pretty cut and dry, in my opinion. You know what you're gonna get. So I don't mind. Let's see what this looks like. See, I don't love that. Putting Greg Joseph in there, then it gets us up to KJ Osborne, but I don't love that. Alright, let's take Joseph and Madison out for now. What about Hawkinson? Hawkinson, Joseph, and Goddard. We got 200 left. I'm gonna go. Swift is only 4,000. We got 4,000 left. No, I'm sticking with Joseph, honestly. For cash game, I think we got a solid over-under on this game. So kicker can get me 5 to 10 points. I think that's more than Swift is gonna get us. So I'm locking this in. I like this lineup. Got a lot of the pieces in that we want. Because we didn't put Justin Jefferson in the captain spot or one of the quarterbacks. So we got Jordan Addison at the captain. then Dallas Goedert, T.J. Hawkinson, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, and Greg Joseph. We'll roll with that. I like that lineup for a cash game. I think it's pretty safe. So let's go over to Fanduel. Now, on Fanduel, the what do they call it? MVP does not. It's not 1.5 the price, just 1.5 the points. So, okay. So we are going to pop in here. So MVP, they got Hurts with a higher price than Justin Jefferson. That's surprising to me. We're putting Justin Jefferson at the MVP. And going to Jalen Hurts. 8,800 per position left. Scroll down a little bit because their pricing's a little bit different. We're gonna have to take some chances on FanDuel. They don't really have anyone worth anything priced below that point. Let's see what. KJ Osborne. Okay, now we got 97.50 per position left. I think we go right back to it if we got enough room. We do. Going right back to both tight ends. Hawkinson got a ton of targets. Goddard, I could see him force feeding them the ball. After only getting them one target, I could see them force feeding them. So for the FanDuel, this is Justin Jefferson at the MVP with KJ Osborne, Jalen Hurts, TJ Hawkinson, and Dallas Goedert. And that's it. All right, a little bit longer video today. Tuesday videos are going to be tough. Recapping the previous week, looking at Thursday waiver wire. We got a lot in Thursday videos. I would love to get you guys a video out every day, but unfortunately, as I have a full-time job and a parent with 4 kids and boys playing sports, I don't have the time to get one out every day. So trying to do my best at get you guys videos whenever I can. Have another video out. Last week was crazy, so I couldn't get one out later in the week, but the plan is to have one come out Tuesday for the waiver recap and Thursday game, and then get one for the rest of the Sunday and Monday games out either Thursday, more than likely be out Friday though. So right now the tentative plan schedule is Tuesdays and Fridays. So I'll catch you guys in the next one.